Salutations, Chumba! In this week's Cyberpunk 2077 news, we have a Cyberpunk 2077 news 2018 Rewind. It has been an exciting year for fans of the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 game by CD Projekt Red and Mike Pondsmith. In anticipation of 2019 and maybe even the release of Cyberpunk 2077, I aim to provide you with all the noteworthy Cyberpunk 2077 news from 2018 and everything going down on the streets of Night City. Also, I would be interested to know what were your favourite Cyberpunk 2077 moments from 2018 in the comment section. 2018 started off with a bang when on January 10th, the official Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account came to life with a single solitary beep after 4 years of silence. This was closely followed by rumours from a Polish publication Gry Online that a new Cyberpunk 2077 trailer would be shown at E3 2018, and a playable demo would be available behind closed doors. Coincidentally, the same sources suggested that action will take place on the moon in Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt Red CEO Adam Kaczynski, in conversation with Polish investment site Strefa Inwestorów, stated that one of the areas CD Projekt Red wished to improve on is multiplayer. In Kaczynski's opinion, online is either necessary or at least highly recommended for a game to achieve long-term success. Back in June 2017, CD Projekt Red had publicly announced that an unidentified individual has confirmed that they are in possession of a few internal files belonging to Cyberpunk 2077. The Street Rats asked for a ransom in order to not release the documents to the general public, but CD Projekt Red refused to comply and released an official statement. A demand for ransom has been made, saying that should we not comply, the files will be released to the general public. We will not be giving in to the demands of the individual or individuals that have contacted us, which might eventually lead to the files being published online. The appropriate legal authorities will be informed about the situation. The documents are old and largely unrepresentative of the current vision for the game. In 2018, during an ordinary general meeting with company shareholders, Adam Kaczynski officially stated that they did not comply with the demands and that CD Projekt Red are proactive on the security front. CFO Piotr Nielubowicz gave a talk at the Pareto Securities Gaming Seminar about CD Projekt Red's success and future plans. Nielubowicz indicated that an important difference between the Witcher series and Cyberpunk is that Cyberpunk is set in a world that CD Projekt Red created. The Cyberpunk 2077 team have not been constrained by working with an IP developed outside the company as they were with Witcher, which was created in a series of books by Andrzej Sapkowski. Nielubowicz suggested that this degree of creative freedom will enhance the appeal of Cyberpunk 2077. Ahead of the highly impressive Cyberpunk 2077 debut trailer on June 10th at E3, CD Projekt Red filed a trademark for Cyberpunk 2077 through the European Union Intellectual Property Office.
In 2077, they voted my city the worst place to live in America. Main issues: sky-high rate of violence, and more people living below the poverty line than anywhere else. Can't deny it, it's all true. But everybody still wants to live here. This city's always got a promise for you. Might be a lie, an illusion. But it's there, just around the corner, and it keeps you going. It's a city of dreams, and I'm a big dreamer.
Following E3, there was a cornucopia of Cyberpunk 2077 news. CD Projekt Red hid several secrets in the E3 story trailer for Cyberpunk 2077. This included a full FAQ for the game and the trailer's final 2 frames. CD Projekt Red apologized for the 5-year gap between the game's announcement and the release of the new trailer, explaining that we wanted to give you The Witcher 3 and both expansions first, which is why this period of staying silent was longer than we planned. Sorry for that. There was an infamous audio leak of the E3 gameplay demo by street rat Shane Satterfield from news outlet called SIFTD, who decided to record the E3 demo audio on his iPhone.
We had the audio from the Cyberpunk 2077 demo that I had recorded while I was at the demo.
Adam Badowski, Cyberpunk 2077 game director, stated that nudity, which will likely be a large theme in the game, is all part of the Cyberpunk 2077 storyline. In Cyberpunk 2077, the body is no longer sacrum, it's profanum. Because people modify everything, they are losing their connection to the body, to the meat, and that's why we need to use the nudity in many situations. Specifically, nude situations will arise when you're using Cyberpunk 2077's character creator. In the Cyberpunk 2077 demo, genitals were blurred, but the blurring will be removed in the full game. Any censorship, according to CD Projekt Red, would remove the severity and realism to the situation. The difficulty options for Cyberpunk 2077 are said to be similar to Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt featured 4 difficulty modes, but just the story mode allowed players to regenerate health by meditating and generally featured an easy difficulty. The story and sword difficulty was normal and also allowed health regeneration via meditation. Blood and Broken Bones reduced the amount of experience gained from tasks by 90% and removed the ability to regenerate via meditation. Finally, there was the Death March difficulty. CD Projekt Red suggested that Cyberpunk 2077 will feature similar difficulty modes to cater to a wide range of ability levels. CD Projekt Red CEO Marcin Nowinski stated that the biggest factor which extended development of Cyberpunk 2077 was due to a major change of direction. Although he hesitated to call it a reboot per se, he did state that we were changing directions and actually we were looking for the substance of the game. The Cyberpunk 2077 teaser trailer from 2013 and the 2018 story trailer do look significantly different. The aesthetic of the story trailer appears much more unique. Cyberpunk 2077 was running on the next generation of the company's proprietary engine, which is being optimized for the Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro. Speculation on Ciri appearing in Cyberpunk 2077 featured prominently at E3. In Witcher 3 The Wild Hunt, Ciri evades the efforts of the Elven King Eredin to capture her, and with assistance from Geralt and Yennefer manages to stop the White Frost. Speculation about Ciri appearing in Cyberpunk 2077 stems from one scene from Witcher 3, where Ciri has a conversation with Geralt and describes one of the worlds she visited while on the run from the Wild Hunt.
The world where Eredin couldn't find you, what was it like?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Try me.
People there had metal in their heads, waged war from a distance, using things similar to megascopes. And there were no horses. Everyone had their own flying ship instead.
Ciri, stop fooling around.
Told you wouldn't believe me. We should have stayed there.
Ciri's description contains several noteworthy elements, including meeting persons with metal in their heads, using items similar to megascopes to fight from a distance, and travelling via flying ships. Naturally, many would interpret these as references to Cyberpunk 2077. The deliberate vagueness of Ciri's description gives the CD Projekt Red writers plenty of room to maneuver should they decide to build upon the scene within their Cyberpunk 2077 narrative. While Ciri is more than capable of handling herself in most situations, how would she fare in a world where cyber enhancements and ballistic weapons are ubiquitous? Ciri would have no knowledge of cyber technology and would not be able to access the information repository that is the net. Even if one considers her ability to blink, how effective would that be against multiple opponents armed with a plethora of smart weapons? These are variables that a Cyberpunk 2077 2077 narrative would need to accommodate without breaking immersion. The main source of information that potentially casts doubt on series inclusion was an interview with Marcin Nowinski and Adam Badowski. Badowski commented that Cyberpunk 2077 is not Kingdom Hearts, and CD Projekt Red will not be joining universes, even though he knows there are a lot of Siri fans on his Cyberpunk 2077 team who would like to have Siri in the game. Badowski is totally against it. Nowinski told Badowski, maybe you will change your mind. The interview neither confirms nor denies that some sort of reference will be made to Siri in Cyberpunk 2077. If you want to see Siri in Cyberpunk 2077, let me know in the comment section. Stanisław Świecicki, a writer on Cyberpunk 2077, commented upon a variety of issues, stating that CD Projekt Red wanted a setting that would allow them to explore not just the noir end of the cyberpunk spectrum, but the whole range. Cyberpunk 2020 has a lot of meat one can bite into in this regard. Cyberpunk has always had a degree of political relevance, and Stanisław thinks confronting issues of the real world is inherent to the genre. The same goes for Cyberpunk 2077. In this world, a small group of people controls most of the world's assets. To them, life is cheap and everyone else expendable fodder. It was pleasing to learn that CD Projekt Red will not shy away from approaching more mature and realistic themes within its narrative, because these variables are of central importance in allowing a player to connect with characters on an emotional level. Often, what differentiates a legendary RPG, such as Witcher 3 from its competition, is the degree of emotional investment one has in the characters. If Cyberpunk 2077 does receive a PGI 18 rating, this will be a positive and will hopefully allow for great exploration of social inequality, brutality, decadence, greed and sexual endeavours. Another key aspect that Stanisław touched upon is that Cyberpunk 2077 will be a first-person affair. When this was announced, it allegedly caused substantial controversy. There is a corpus of evidence that suggests a first-person perspective is the optimal choice for creating a more immersive experience and greater interaction with the gaming environment. Stanisław refers back to Witcher 3, which suited a third-person perspective because of the combat mechanics, but also it was Geralt's story, not the player's. In contrast, Cyberpunk 2077 is the player's own creation, and the fighting mechanics involving ballistic weapons favours a first-person perspective. It was revealed that Night City will feature 6 distinct districts, a city centre which will predominantly be where the corporations do their business, an area called Westbrook, which is home to the financial elite. Pacifica is a haven for those of a criminal disposition, while Santo Domingo will be an industrial zone. Haywood and Watson are residential areas that will feature strong cultural influences from Latin America and Asia. Shortly after E3, Cyberpunk 2077 would return at Gamescom 2018. CD Projekt Red revealed another Cyberpunk 2077 demo with a few subtle alterations compared to its E3 counterpart, such as having a male V protagonist who wakes up in his apartment with another male after successfully rescuing Sandra Dorset from the scavengers. On display was a katana that generates a magnetic field allowing the deflection of bullets. In the E3 demo, V received a credit chip with $50,000 to assist in acquiring the Flathead MTOD-12 spider bot for Dexter DeShawn. In the Gamescom Cyberpunk 2077 demo, V warns the Maelstrom leader Royce about the virus. However, the Maelstrom gang insult V's jacket. Jackie offers to buy V a new jacket if they retrieve the virus-free credit chip from the Maelstrom gang. In this scenario, Militech agent Meredith Stout seems to have been permanently replaced. Aside from the Cyberpunk 2077 demo, there was a variety of Cyberpunk beverages, including Ciderpunk, available from the Atlantis bar, which has the same name as the bar featured in the Johnny Silverhand scenario Never Fade Away from Cyberpunk 2020. In the Cyberpunk 2077 demo, V also has samurai posters in her apartment. One poster had 31st of May, New Orleans written on it. At this point in time, it is unknown if this date has special meaning or not. It could simply be a poster V has from attending a samurai concert in the past. The word brosif also appears on the poster. While slang for friend, it is the name of a drink CD Projekt Red was serving at their Atlantis bar. Two more drinks appear on the poster, Spunky Monkey and Night Cola, both of which were available in the Cyberpunk 2077 demo. The word boomelant also appears. Boomelant is a Polish word for absentee or a lazy person. Quite infamous in Poland as a phrase on propaganda posters, but currently its meaning within the Cyberpunk 2077 lexicon is unknown. Kyle Rowley, former Associate Design Director on Cyberpunk 2077, mentioned that the class system in Cyberpunk 2077 will be fluid, based upon 3 core roles: Solo, Techie, and Netrunner. It will allow the player to specialize in one area or mix and match if they feel inclined to. Solos are combat orientated, with a history either as hired assassins, bodyguards, killers, or military experience. They place emphasis on improving reflexes through drug use and cyberware augmentation. Techies are mechanics and doctors who can build, fix, and modify technology. Netrunners specialize in manipulating interface programs and hacking servers. Cyberpunk 2077 producer Richard Bojamovsky confirmed that the Cyberpunk 2077 team hit a major milestone. Cyberpunk 2077 is now playable from start to finish. It does not have all the proper assets, playtesting or bug fixes in place, but seeing the story come together is a critical step in the development process. Maciej Pietras, Cyberpunk 2077 lead animator, commented that Cyberpunk 2077 will have an interactive scene system to make the player as immersed as possible during dialogue sequences. So, for example, if the player looks away during the conversation or draws their weapon, the NPC might react. The Cyberpunk 2077 team continued their alternate reality game by hiding a secret message with a newly released concept art. One image had a link which, when entered manually, brought up a second image with the message, "More than meets the eye." When this image was opened in a text editor, it was translated as, "Can't talk, they're watching. Need my TT insurance renewed ASAP. Use the provided ID. Counting on you." There was a Trauma Team International website that allowed one to input the code. Those who successfully completed this ARG task received Trauma Team t-shirts. Controversy reared its ugly head after the official Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account made a harmless joke and was subsequently bombarded with vitriol and nonsensical calls for a boycott of Cyberpunk 2077. The Monday after Gamescom 2018, CD Projekt Red surprised everyone by releasing full footage of the demo shown at E3. CD Projekt Red's Twitch stream was the most watched Twitch stream in 2018, reportedly hitting a peak of 288,000 viewers. Boris Pugac Murashkevich, who is the lead writer of CD Projekt Red, narrated the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo.
To my mind, that's what game development is.
Cyberpunk 2077 senior quest designer Philip Weber revealed that the player can go beyond the limits of Night City. Weber commented that you can go some way further. Of course, there are natural limits to it at some point, but it's not just the city. Patrick Mills, quest designer for Cyberpunk 2077, when discussing the narrative, recalled an aphorism from Mike Pondsmith that in Cyberpunk, it is not possible to save the world. It's only possible to save yourself. CD Projekt Red included a hidden message in the demo, which offered an explanation as to why they wanted to show the gameplay to the public after industry professionals and media. Adam Badowski added that since many of the assets and mechanics in the current version of Cyberpunk 2077 are most likely to be modified, CD Projekt Red initially decided to show this gameplay only to the media. Elements like gunplay, both in terms of visuals and how RPG stats influence it, netrunning, car physics, or the game's user interface, are still in the playtest phase, and the Cyberpunk 2077 team felt uneasy about publicly committing to any particular design. Some potential Easter eggs from the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo included the character Misty, whom V meets during the Visiting the Dock subquest. She bears a similarity to replicant Priscilla Stratton from Blade Runner, played by Daryl Hannah. In Victor's Ripperdoc clinic, there was a no-life free post on his desk, possibly a reference to Valve's Half-Life 3 game. Dr. Vector does have a resemblance to Spider from the movie Johnny Mnemonic, who was played by Henry Rollins.
Information overload! All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves! Technological fucking civilization! But we still have all this shit, cause we can't live without it.
During the subquest Rescue the Girl, V fights a scavenger gang to save Sandra Dorset. There is a note on the desk, and if you rotate the image it reads, "Friends will help you ease the pain, but at the end of the day, you have all the control of your life." Jeremy Lay was confirmed as the voice of female V.
Come hang out with me. See you guys later. Bye.
You might recognize Jeremy from anime roles such as Lucy Heartfilia from Fairy Tail. There was speculation that Mike Pondsmith, also known as Maximum Mike, was the voice of Night City fixer Dexter DeShawn. While Mike has commented he did some earlier voice work for the character, he did not actually confirm whether or not it was him in the gameplay footage, so it is still open to interpretation. Mike Pondsmith released a message via Art Alsorian Games for the celebration of Cyberpunk's 30th anniversary.
30 years ago, we set out to prove that metal is better than meat. Together, we set out to explore a world gone mad, a dystopian universe where only the smartest, the toughest, and the coolest dare go. Together, we've walked the mean streets of Night City. We've beaten back the booster gangs. We've faced down the biggest corpse, because we were Cyberpunk. Now it's 30 years later. We stand on the edge of a new generation of Cyberpunk. We got new cyberware, new technology, and new stories waiting to be told. And best of all, we've got a new video game to show the rest of the world our favorite dark future, Cyberpunk 2077, a game created by longtime Cyberpunk fans CDPR for all of us fellow fans. Doesn't get much better than that.
Marcin Przybłowicz, Cyberpunk 2077 lead composer and music director, spoke of the challenges he faces when creating music for Cyberpunk 2077. The Cyberpunk setting is not as well established as the fantasy world of Andrzej Sapkowski. Marcin commented that Sapkowski did provide CD Projekt Red with quite a bit of heritage. 5 novels, 2 additional books with short stories, and regarding Wild Hunt, there was 2 previous Witcher games. For Cyberpunk 2077, they have a source book for pen and paper, Cyberpunk 2020, and Mike Pondsmith. In terms of musical inspiration, Marcin cited Blade Runner, Akira, and Ghost in the Shell. Marcin further added that music placement in CD Projekt Red games is simple. It always has to help the story, because the story in CD Projekt Red games is crucial. Regarding the Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, CD Projekt Red stated they are marrying cyber with punk. These represent CD Projekt Red's 2 main pillars for music direction. Cyber centers around sonic texture of the core, with the sound palette being raw, dirty, synthesized, sometimes even futuristic. Punk is all about the attitude of music. Rebellious, ballsy, and impulsive. Night City shimmers with colours, and so is the music. CD Projekt Red will not limit themselves to one specific genre. Instead, they will draw from all sorts of styles to craft a unique mix that drives the narrative and provides additional layers of context to Cyberpunk 2077. Philip Weber addressed the Cyberpunk 2077 progression system, drawing a comparison with The Witcher 3. In Cyberpunk 2077, there is more freedom on what skills can do and how varied they can be. In Witcher 3, all the skills had to make sense to what Geralt, a Witcher, can do. Having this freedom also means that quests can be solved in many more different ways. Weber suggests that the game will not have a game over state. While players can fail quests, they will then have to deal with the consequences that are now part of the narrative. During the course of the gameplay demo, V pays a visit to Ripperdoc Victor, where she receives a Mark I Kuroshi optical scanner implant. This added a variety of HUD elements to the player's view, including information such as damage dealt. Cyberpunk 2077 community lead Marcin Momot confirmed that one can turn off HUD elements and that photo mode will be available in Cyberpunk 2077. V will be able to purchase multiple apartments in Cyberpunk 2077, which may be reminiscent of Corvo Bianco from the Witcher 3 expansion Blood and Wine.
Thus we've decided you shall receive the deed to a vineyard, Corvo Bianco, and the sum of coin. You will doubtless consider this adequate. Title to the vineyard shall be given to you at once. Surely you'll need lodgings while you hunt. The coin, however, will be yours only once you have slain the beast.
Lovely, generous gesture, Your Grace. Corvo Bianco. Isn't it the Duchy's temporary morgue?
Corvo Bianco was a reward from the Duchess Anna Henrietta. The gameplay demo suggests V will have their own apartment from the onset of the game. Philip Weber confirmed that Cyberpunk 2077 will not have a companion system. Similar to Witcher 3, V will have temporary companions at specific points of the narrative. In some quests, V will be by themselves, and others V will have one person like Jackie, or even a whole group depending on the choices the player made. The aim is to have a companion at points in the story where CD Projekt Red believe it adds something of value. Patrick Mills reaffirmed that Night City genuinely feels like a real city when you drive around. It doesn't feel like a city in miniature. Given how impressive the gameplay demo was, and CD Projekt Red's previous success of Novigrad certainly lends credence to the notion that Night City will be on a level not experienced before in an RPG. Regarding smart guns, Philip Weber explains that there will be a trade-off. A weapon that requires aim will generally do more damage compared to a weapon that has smart aim. Kyle Rowley added that in order to use smart guns, they will need a specific connection to the gun via a piece of cyberware. This will unlock the ability to use the targeting system that will multi-highlight the enemies, so when you pull the trigger, the bullets track them. The player's actual skills do not affect the smart weapon technology. It's all dependent on the gun. Gun modules, Tech Smart or Power, will allow the player to customize weapons. Cal stated that you can have strong solos that can be made into tanks with big weapons, or you can be like Major Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell, which he described as a cyber ninja.
Hey! When it comes to the thief trade, secrecy is the first rule.
Patrick Mills confirmed that the theme of objectification will feature prominently in Cyberpunk 2077. This is a world where the system has objectified people and literally turned them into objects. Many times people turn themselves into objects in order to rebel or fit in. Certainly objectification would be a major theme. The inhabitants of Night City will respond to the player's attire, tattoos, hairstyles and physical appearance. Mills also placed emphasis on how the Cyberpunk 2077 team are attempting to evolve dialogue from Witcher 3. During conversations, the aim is to make the interaction more fluid, as evidenced during the gameplay demo. Looking at a specific object, character, or doing something such as taking out your gun can change the course of a conversation. Mills confirmed that the number of quests available in Cyberpunk 2077 will be similar to Witcher 3, if not more. Witcher 3 had approximately 400 quests, indicating Cyberpunk 2077 will have a myriad of content for players to engage with. A minor criticism of the gameplay demo by some commentators was that while traversing through Night City, the player could see NPCs with generic titles, yet others had specific names, which possibly implied they were important to quests and subsequently diminished game immersion. Mike Pondsmith addressed this, stating it could be that characters with names are people V actually knows, as opposed to quest givers. Richard Bojamovsky commented that the Witcher 3 success gave CD Projekt Red a sense of safety in their skills. Right now, CD Projekt Red environment artists are populating levels with assets, and they are not afraid of testing out new ideas to push the boundaries of Cyberpunk 2077. Witcher 3 is not less complex than Cyberpunk 2077, but involved a different type of complexity. When CD Projekt Red were world building, there was a myriad of big open spaces which needed to be filled out. It was not easier to build all those beautiful forests and meadows, but it is more forgiving. If one tree is slightly more off to the right, this is exactly how forests look. But you cannot put a building too far apart from a different one in the middle of Night City. CD Projekt Red is now holding itself to an even higher standard than before. While some of the Witcher 3's environments used procedurally generated elements to paint in basic foliage texture, CD Projekt Red refuses to use procedural elements in any of Cyberpunk 2077's environment or quests. Maciej Pietras explained that each district in Night City will have distinct bespoke animations. CD Projekt Red are now using new animation systems which represent significant upgrades in comparison to Witcher 3, with a particular emphasis on facial animation based upon muscle movement and ways of generating lip sync animation during dialogue. Patrick Mills revealed that Cyberpunk 2077 has its own dedicated quest team with the aim of ensuring that each quest feels like a complete story in and of itself, not just filler or forcing players to pointlessly grind for monetary rewards. Mills explains that every side quest should be a complete experience on par with the main quest. This also indicates that the infamous Radiant quest system seen in games such as Fallout 4 will not be part of Cyberpunk 2077. The choices made for V's backstory and other elements will heavily influence gameplay. Each choice will cause specific side quests related to that backstory to become available during the game, meaning multiple playthroughs of Cyberpunk 2077 should be a viable option. Mills also discussed Cyberpunk 2077 as a collaborative art piece. Cyberpunk 2077 seeks to evoke feelings from the audience in some way rather than seek mere passive engagement. CD Projekt Red games are not just mass market consumer goods. Stanisław Świecicki commented that CD Projekt Red do not want Night City gangs such as the Maelstrom seen in the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo to be comic book-esque villains. They are not abominations that decided for almost no reason to put cyberware in themselves. Cyberpunk 2077 is a dark, dangerous world, and some people are not able to make it to the megacorps, or simply do not want to join a corporation. It's human need to seek identity, and some people just gravitate towards the gangs. It touches upon a universal feeling we all have, the need to belong to a group. Voice actor Doug Cockle, who provided the English voice for Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series, confirmed he has not been involved with Cyberpunk 2077. However, Cockle suggests that does not exclude the possibility of him being involved with the game at some point in the future. September 17th, 2018 marked 2077 days since the Cyberpunk 2077 teaser trailer was released. Stanisław Świecicki commented that CD Projekt Red are going to great lengths to capture California's distinctive atmosphere, rather than just repeat the rain-soaked dystopias that are usually associated with the genre. Stanisław wants to give the game a genuine Californian feel. The sun, palm trees, but also its darker side. It is an incredibly diverse place with a myriad of different people, fashions and cultures sharing the same space, but it can also be dangerous. Crowds in Cyberpunk 2077 are generated semi-procedurally to avoid repetition, mixing body parts, faces, clothes, and hairstyles. The final game will have far greater variation in heights, weights, and body shapes than that shown in the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo. The player will experience the thrill of using cybernetic implants and high-tech weaponry in combat. There is also depth to the story similar to the philosophy from Blade Runner or Ghost in the Shell. CD Projekt Red want to ask questions about what identity and individuality are in a world where people are intimately connected with technology. Maciej Pietras stated that CD Projekt Red have changed the way they do facial animation, moving to a new muscle-based system. CD Projekt Red have a huge library of facial animations. You can get close to people now, and this new tech allows CD Projekt Red to pick out more subtle details in their faces. When you first see a street vendor, they will try and sell you something, calling you over to look at their merchandise. The player should be able to see enthusiasm in the vendor's face and body language. The Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo primarily focused on action because CD Projekt Red wanted to show off as many game systems as possible, but Świecicki stresses that storytelling is hugely important to CD Projekt Red. They want to tell stories that resonate with people on an emotional level and ask important questions. Patrick Mills explained that the quests he designs are fed back to QA, which gives them a logic pass outlining things they think they should be able to do. If it makes sense for the player to solve a problem in a particular way, CD Projekt Red wants to cater for it. There is room for emergence. Mills also said that a lot of those at CD Projekt Red prefer working on side quests because they can tell self-contained stories. CD Projekt Red aim to make the production values as close as possible to the critical path. There should be something unique and cool about all of them. Mills states that one of the things he enjoys most about creating quests is subverting the player's expectations. He cites one of his favourite encounters he designed for Witcher 3 was being approached by the taxman.
Ignorantia legis non excusat, as the ancient Franz would say. Ignorance of the law excuses no one.
Mills confirmed with the attire he is wearing and these customization will impact upon how NPCs react or the availability of certain options in quests. This includes characteristics such as hairstyle or colour. CD Projekt Red are trying hard to convey a passage of time in Cyberpunk 2077, in contrast to many RPGs where the game is simply frozen in time. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game about people with power at the top and people at the bottom with none. That power can come from money, hierarchies, technology, and violence. The original Cyberpunk 2020 setting, like the setting of the Witcher stories, was a complex critique of the author's world, and CD Projekt Red do not shy away from that in their games. Cyberpunk 2077 will try to engage you on multiple levels, and not just the visceral, but also the intellectual. Cyberpunk is an inherently political genre, and it's an inherently political franchise. It's a place that is very critical of the world in which we live, in interesting and complex ways, and CD Projekt Red hope they can get that across. CD Projekt Red are attempting to replicate the feeling of playing Cyberpunk 2020 in Cyberpunk 2077, but it is not a strict continuation from 2020 to 57 years later. CD Projekt Red have modified the timeline and reinterpreted events to break themselves out of any dialectical conundrums. In the Cyberpunk 2020 narrative, some characters have almost no exposition. According to Mills, Mike Pondsmith has a secret collection of notes which he never published, but is using that corpus of material to help shape Cyberpunk 2077's narrative. Mills cites the example of Rocket Boy and former Samurai Band member Kerry Eurodyne, where Mike Pondsmith provided 3 pages of additional material not available in the sourcebooks. In the Cyberpunk 2077 cinematic teaser trailer from 2013, there was a lady with mantis blades who looked like she had undergone an episode of cyberpsychosis. Mills accidentally confirmed that the mantis blade lady, based upon Katarzyna Danish, is a really cool character. Katarzyna Danish was a former Polish model, most notable for her work on Playboy magazine, although before you start googling her for research purposes, it seems a Netrunner erased almost all of her modelling work from the internet. On the topic of prostitutes, Mills confirmed prostitution exists in Night City, but did not say whether or not the player will be able to interface with the prostitutes. Speaking of immersion, when asked whether bathrooms will work in Cyberpunk 2077, Mills confirmed yes, they actually do. If you go into V's apartment, you can turn on the water, you can flush the toilet, or even use the shower. One never knows when a toilet will be useful.
Where about Turdy Dump?
Miles Toast, level designer at CD Projekt Red, commented upon the dynamic environments within the game that would react to these presents. Miles states that CD Projekt Red believe that a dynamic environment is a key element of a good open-world experience. Dynamic environments ultimately assist in enhancing the player's immersion. The game world becomes more alive and believable, which gives Cyberpunk 2077 a whole different level of weight and grit. Combat becomes more vicious too, enhancing the feeling of a dangerous world shrouded in violence. CD Projekt Red are determined to make environments in Cyberpunk 2077 as visually impressive when they are untouched as when they are getting blown up, without sacrificing performance. Miles also revealed that Night City will have many layers, and that each of the city's 6 districts were designed to be unique, while still blending into one consistent and believable city environment. Not all parts of the city are covered in darkness by shadows thrown from skyscrapers. Toast cites the example of Pacifica, which was a district planned to be a Night City prime tourist resort. When the funding died, it left many construction projects unfinished and ultimately taken over by gangs as their hideouts. Each district has its own history, which they will be able to uncover. It is important to CD Projekt Red to allow for this variety, whilst also keeping it grounded within the lore of Cyberpunk 2077. As part of Cyberpunk 2077's dynamic environment, Night City Police might respond to any law breaking done by the player. The police have high-end cyber implants as well as advanced weaponry, making them formidable opponents. While Toast did not refer to them directly, there are cyber squads such as C-SWAT, Cybernetic Special Weapons and Tactical Squad, and Max-TAC, Maximum Force Tactical Division. They are heavily armoured and utilise some of the best equipment available, specifically designed to take down the most dangerous cyber psychos. Given that the romance between Geralt and Yennefer was one of the most memorable aspects from the Witcher 3 narrative, it was pleasing to hear from Philip Weber that in Cyberpunk 2077, romance options are very much treated like in The Witcher 3. Aside from one-night stands, CD Projekt Red want the romances in the game to have well fleshed out characters and story behind them. CD Projekt Red stated on several occasions that sexual orientation is something that Cyberpunk 2077 will not impose on the player's version of V. Many of the NPCs in Night City have predefined orientations. V's sexual orientation will be determined by the player and the choices V makes throughout the game that will subsequently impact upon romance options and sexual encounters. With Geralt, there was a character whose sexuality was very well defined by Andrzej Sapkowski's novels and previous Witcher games, but in Cyberpunk 2077 it will be up to the player to decide. There will be gay, bisexual and straight NPCs for V to interact with. Cyberpunk 2077 community manager Emilia Kowat commented that the player will be able to form meaningful connections with other characters as well as opt for one-night stands. Cyberpunk 2077 is not bound by a predefined character like in The Witcher. The game will feature romance options going beyond heterosexual.
This is very romantic.
Fuck off.
An official CD Projekt Red online store will be opened in 2019, so expect a myriad of Cyberpunk 2077 merchandise to be available. The store will be based in Poland in terms of shipping costs and import charges. Regarding Cyberpunk Red, it is described as a continuation of the Cyberpunk 2020 narrative, which will assist in bridging the gap between Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk 2077. As Artalsorian gamers want fans of Cyberpunk 2020 to flow as seamlessly as possible along the thematic path from 2020 to Red to 2077. That means Artalsorian Games are working closely with CD Projekt Red to ensure timelines and lore match up. Since Cyberpunk 2077 is still an evolving project, that means Cyberpunk Red must also evolve with it. As a result, Cyberpunk Red is currently a work in progress, with a hopeful release date of 2019. With regards to the size of Night City, CD Projekt Red disclosed that the scope will be similar to that of Witcher 3, although Witcher 3 was flatter and activities scattered, so to speak. In Cyberpunk 2077, the environment will be more vertical and confined in tall, explorable buildings or underground areas. On the week starting November 26th, CD Projekt Red tweeted Cyber Monday. This was just a reference to a marketing term for the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, which encourages boosters to waste their eddies. Cyberpunk 2077 Environment City coordinator Hiroshi Sakakibara commented that each developer imparts their own creativity into the designs of Night City. He likes to inject Japanese culture into his designs, creating a juxtaposition of old Asian style influence and cybertech aesthetics. Predictions on a Cyberpunk 2077 Q4 2019 release date came from Wester Dom Maklerski, a Polish financial analyst firm. Investors who are not normally keen on CD Projekt Red have recently changed their opinion since the great debut of Red Dead Redemption 2, which had gross sales of approximately $725 million US. The authors of the report now predict Cyberpunk 2077 should sell approximately 19 million copies on release within the fourth quarter of 2019, which they believe to be a conservative estimate. These predictions take into consideration that a cyberpunk world should be more popular than one based upon the Wild West, and will also be available on PC. Leading up to the 2018 Game Awards, Marcin Momot announced that CD Projekt Red will not show any new content at the Game Awards on December 6th, stating that CD Projekt Red will share details about Cyberpunk 2077 when they are ready. Philip Weber, in response to suggestions that an outward happy vibe was shown in the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo, explained that when there is no future, many people will deal with that not through lethargy but through more and more excess. So if you see these individuals in Night City for just a few seconds, their outward appearance may seem jovial. According to Weber, mentioning outward happiness is an important distinction. Just scratch off the metaphorical paint and all the sunshine and palm trees in Night City will suddenly look completely different. On the topic of being able to kill NPCs in Cyberpunk 2077, Weber commented that no, you cannot kill all NPCs. CDPR would like to tell a good story, and their stories are very character driven, so some NPCs have to be essential to the story being told. As a comparison, Weber cites Fallout New Vegas as an example when it comes to games with a great narrative where one can still kill most, if not all, NPCs. The big difference between New Vegas and the story of CDPR games is that Vegas is faction driven, while CDPRs are specifically character driven. For the kind of story CD Projekt Red are making for Cyberpunk 2077, killing all NPCs would break it, or CDPR would have to spend a significant amount of resources just securing each character's death, resources which CDPR prefer to use on deeper quests. To celebrate St. Nicholas Day or Dzień Świętego Mikołaja, where it is traditional in Poland to give small gifts on December 6, CD Projekt Red gave their employees a Cyberpunk Mantis Blade Lady figurine. Last but not least, Mateusz Tomaszkiewicz, Quest Director for Cyberpunk 2077, received an official samurai jacket for his 10th anniversary working at CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red also released a message for Christmas Day, which read, "Coming when it is ready." That brings us to an end for the Cyberpunk 2077 News Rewind of 2018. Cyberpunk 2077 remains an extremely exciting prospect, not only because of CD Projekt Red's pedigree, but because Cyberpunk stories speak to who we are as gamers. If you feel I've missed anything particularly newsworthy from 2018, let me know in the comment section. I'm Kazuliski, and thank you for watching. See you in 2019, Chumba.